Feel free to check out my TeePublic after the video, and support me on Patreon. Watch till the end of the video for more. This review was possible thanks to my wonderful patrons. If you'd like to show your support for this channel, then you can go do so on Patreon.
We're going to McDonald's, boys. I'll have 2 cheeseburgers. Yep, thank you.
Check out my Discord server, links in the description.
The Rebirth of Mothra 2, also known as Mothra 2: Great Undersea Battle, is the sequel to the first Rebirth of Mothra movie from 1996. This time it's directed by Kunio Miyoshi, who you may know as the chief assistant director of all the Heisei Godzilla films, except Biollante and King Ghidorah, Yamato Takeru, and Sayonara Jupiter. Fun fact, this is the last thing he ever worked on according to Japanese Wikipedia. And poor guy, I cannot even imagine what was going through his head while this was being made, because I genuinely want to know what the f*** happened in this movie. And that's all the backstory I got. Time to go down on this piece of shit. The movie opens with moths. And then we cut to pollution in the ocean because the movie contains zero subtlety, and I dare you to guess what kind of message they're going for here. Honestly, I probably should have taken a cue from this movie, and instead of editing an entire video as to why this movie is such a f***ing abomination, I could have just posted this and not spend the time and energy that could have been placed onto something a lot more beneficial for me. But obviously, I'm not gonna do that because my suffering tends to bring people joy. Okay, moving on. We then see a starfish and... We're then in a classroom where... Why did these kids have a caterpillar? Why did the filmmakers agree on doing this when they knew it would have looked terrible? How come no one thought, hey, there's a million different ways we could have established these kids as troublemakers? Why am I even asking anything at this point? Why am I even watching this in the first place?
Oh yeah, it's because I love you guys.
So all these strange starfish are popping up in the ocean, and meanwhile, there's some shenanigans with these kid characters in Okinawa. God, if only this were a Kahachi Okamoto film. One of these kids is a young girl named Shiori who comes across a bootleg Lorax. The gang has an encounter with Belvira, who tries to get that thing before she is engaged in an aerial battle against the Elias twins while the kids are running away from her. One really bad composite shot later, the kids end up escaping and...
Well then.
Oh yeah, and this thing is called a Gorgo, not to be confused with the other Gorgo, which I should be watching instead. And the reason why it's here is because it was looking for people to help the Elias twins get rid of all these starfish called Barams, which are being produced by a monster named Dagara. The characters must find a MacGuffin called the Treasure of Nilai Kanai so that they can use it to stop Dagara from destroying the world. So the crew heads over to an undersea temple to find the treasure, stop Dagra from erupting any further chaos, and summon Mothra when needed, I guess.
You know what? Let's start off with the positives this movie has to offer. You probably already had the impression that this movie is really terrible, but it's not 100% terrible. Because you see, for starters...
Who am I kidding? This movie is fucking awful. This movie isn't even nice to look at, as a tokusatsu film should, but it's filled to the brim with hideous green screen and composite shots. Oh, did I mention that the Gamera trilogy was happening at the same time as this? So you know that temple I mentioned earlier, they actually did build a real interior set for that, but for some reason they keep insisting on using shitty digital backdrops for some of the scenes. It really doesn't make any sense. It's like that scene on the swing set in Devilman. Why do you need green screen for that? I already talked about Mothra Leo in the last video, but Dagra honestly has a cool design, but he's got a case of the Destroyers where he's just so stiff. It does not work, doesn't look good in execution, and a great reminder that a cool design does not mean a good monster. And it's a huge shame because Koichi Kawakita actually is capable of pulling off some nice looking special effects, as seen in Ultraman Ace, Gunhead, and Yamato Takeru. Same goes for the scene where Dagra destroys a submarine. It actually looks pretty cool. I honestly thought I was watching a completely different movie for a moment. And you wanna know what the sad thing is? These characters actually serve a purpose to the story as opposed to the Goto family from the first movie, and the reason why it sucks is because these characters are moronic and obnoxious as hell.
I get that these are supposed to be kids' movies, but even kids' movies have been proven to have soul.
And again, I like Yoshiyuki Watanabe's scoring more than Akira Fukube's in the Heisei Godzilla films, but it's just really forgettable here. There's not a single track that stands out to me. You know, instead of boiling my thoughts on this movie down to a quick couple of sentences that wrap this review up all together in a nice little bow, I'm gonna show you a little snippet from this movie that perfectly sums it all up.
I'll just let that speak for itself.
So yeah, this movie is stupid. But you wanna know what's not stupid? Supporting me on Patreon like these fine people you see the names of here. And I want to give a very special thank you to Steamed Iguana and the Nerd Cage Live for subscribing to the $1 tier ever since I promoted it. I cannot thank you all enough. If you would like to join these amazing people at the end of every future upload, then you can support me on Patreon for as little as $1. And if you like to chip in more than that, you can also get early access to videos, exclusive content, and a t-shirt of your choice from my TeePublic. And once I reach enough patrons, I'll review the Yokai Monsters trilogy. That's right folks, I will be reviewing Neon Genesis Evangelion in the near future. I don't care that these numbers don't match, I am counting it, so definitely keep an eye out for that. But if you like to hear my thoughts on the Yokai Monsters trilogy, then go support me on Patreon. Other than that, feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and this is TitanGoji, wishing to be free from this suffering.